Going into this offseason, fans had questions about Auburn's D-line, but we got answers. Welcome on into the Auburn Express, powered by the War Report. I'm your host, Mike G, and thank you so much for making us your first listen of every single day. Joining me as he does every single week, my partner in crime, Ike Jones. We're going through our Friday roster breakdown. We previewed almost every position group so far, Ike. Today we're doing the D-line. We've gone through wide receivers, running backs, offensive line, defensive backs, edge. And now we're talking D-line. Auburn needs some work there. A lot of fans had questions about how they'll replace the experience of guys like Jason Jones who leave this room onto the NFL. But there are some stars. Before we get into it on today's show, talk to me about the defensive line, man. There are questions, but there was always a lot of potential there on defensive line for new stars to arise, maybe even more talented ones.
Yeah, no, I think the defensive line is going to be a solid unit this year. I like the young talent that's there. I like the emergence of guys that played last season there in Malik Blockton, who's coming into his second year. This defensive line has depth, I think, this year. The big thing that Coach Hugh Freeze had said in the first two seasons, right, was that he was hesitant to run the kind of offense that he wanted with the high tempo because he didn't want to put too much stress, particularly on his defensive line, having to play a lot of reps and a lot of snaps because they just didn't have enough depth there to rotate like they need to. I think this year you've got a little bit more of that depth. If you can trust the young talent to maybe go out there and just play through it, make a few mistakes early, by the end of the year, you'll have a really stout unit there.
Yeah, I agree. Look, they say games are won and lost in the trenches. Offensive line, we know what the deal is there. Defensive line, if they can generate pressure with those three down linemen, and that's what I want to talk about before we get into the guys that we're projecting as starter there. Auburn projects to start three down linemen. And talk to our listeners for a second about the scheme that DJ Durkin employs and what that will look like in terms of formations.
I can already hear people screaming, why are we only rushing three? Why are we only rushing three? I hate it, right? But DJ Durkin runs what is essentially in a personnel grouping 3-3-5, right? 3 dedicated linemen, 3 linebackers, 5 defensive backs, right? And so that buck position, which is the edge position, usually walks up onto the defensive line. That gives you a 4 down or a 4-person front, which gives you a 4-2-5 presentation, so to speak. But it is a 3-3-5 position group, right? It's not 4 down linemen and 2 linebackers. It's 3 down linemen, 3 linebackers. But so the 3 positions that you have up front are going to be your opposite of that buck is going to be a defensive end, right? The guy who is a defensive anchor on the other side, a rush in / contain man. You got your nose tackle or your center piece right there in the middle. And then you've got a defensive tackle that's going to be closest to that buck on the opposite side. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Who's going to be the starter at the defensive end, nose tackle, and the D tackle spot?
Yeah, look, well, let's get into it. Who's going to start on that defensive line to come the fall? The first guy on our list is a guy that probably going to be one of the more famous names in the league this year. That's Keldric Falk. As a matter of fact, I think he should be an early candidate as far as representing Auburn at SEC Media Days. He's going to be a leader on this team. Keldric's supremely talented. This is a guy who should be able to rack up some sacks this year as well, too. Talk to me about Keldric Falk. He is also an early candidate for preseason All-SEC. I think he has a chance, Ike, to sneak on that first-team preseason All-SEC list for Auburn. I know I'm going to be for him.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt that Keldric Falk should be first-team All-SEC in the preseason. He probably will be a preseason All-American, right? Like, I think that he's got that kind of talent. And he's a guy who, you talked about SEC Media Days. He was there last year. A lot of people wanted to talk to him. I don't know if he goes back-to-back seasons to SEC Media Days, but I do know that there is no question that Keldric Falk is a talented member of this defensive unit. And he's a guy that you talked about the sack numbers and needing to generate pressure. That's what he was doing early in the season before the injury slowed him down a little bit. He did get hurt towards the middle of the year, and it kind of slowed down the amount of snaps that he was able to take. Hopefully they'll be able to rotate him a little bit more, trusting some other guys so that he can be as productive as he needs to be per snap. Taking the Bruce Pearl approach, right? Where it's like, okay, you're not going to play the most snaps in the country, but you're going to be absolutely fresh for every single snap that you are able to take. Hopefully Keldric Falk can be that kind of guy, and he is going to be a leader on this defense this year because this is his money year. I talked about a money year with Keyron Crawford, talked about money year with a couple of people. This is a Keldric Falk money year. This is the year he makes the move to say, I'm ready to go to the NFL. NFL scouts already salivating over the prospects of Keldric Falk. He needs to prove it this season and go make his money.
Yeah, he definitely does need to prove it this season. Keldric Falk. Now, he racked up, looks like 9 sacks last year, 5 hits, a ridiculous 31 hurries. He was getting after it.
Yeah.
So I expect him to build on that sack number this year. He should be double-digit sacks this year, barring unforeseen circumstances. But certainly he's going to be a guy, I think, that fills up the stat sheet for Auburn. 35 tackles last year as well to boot. 45 total tackles. I think that tackle number, 35 tackle number is solo tackles.
Probably solo, yeah.
Yeah, but 45 total tackles. He had another 10 assisted. Look, Keldric is the prototypical guy, I think, in his position for DJ Durkin defense. I would say that Auburn could improve on defense at generating pressure from the D-line here. How does Keldric project in terms of helping Auburn just produce more pressure on the quarterback?
I mean, again, it's something that he did early last season really well. I just think that he kind of wore down as the season went on. Hopefully, with some of the guys that are behind him getting more acclimated, a guy like Amaris Williams, who projects to be there at the defensive end slot, and then you've got the 2 freshmen in Antonio Coleman and Jarrett Smith that will be there in that room as well. And you've got people forget now he might be coaching more of the Bucks, but because Keldric is going to be an end, they might give him Buck and the defensive end unit. You've got Rock Bellantoni coming back to coach those guys up, and so I'm looking forward to see the production of Auburn in the pass rushing games go up because they have enough guys to rotate, do some sub package stuff, and go get after the quarterback. Keldric Falk's going to factor in heavily with that.
Yeah, Keldric was in that second tier of guys in the SEC at the edge. As far as sacks were concerned, there were only 4 other edges in the league that had more sacks than Keldric Falk last year. I think he'll be top 1 or 2 there coming into this season. So Keldric Falk, we'll start. We all knew that. No surprise to anybody. But the next guy on our list, maybe not as heralded a name, but a guy we expect a lot from. And that is Quintrell Jameson Travis. Hopefully I got his first name right. Quintrell projects here. Now, he was a JUCO. He came in. He was here last year. But talk to me about Quintrell Jameson Travis and how he'll contribute to his defense this year.
Yeah, man. Bobby's going to do his thing this year. Looking like, I think this is the thing that has been a little up and down for Auburn is the production from the nose tackle. In order for this type of scheme that people seem to dislike so much to work well, you've got to have an anchor in the middle, and that person needs to be a people eater and a person that consumes blocks. And if you leave them one-on-one, there's somebody who's going to disrupt the middle of whatever's happening on the offense. Jameson Travis definitely has some things to improve there, but I think because of his seniority, that's why I'm putting him in there, because the other guys that are potentially slotted to be that nose tackle, I just don't think they're as talented as him, or they aren't as experienced. But I do think that Bobby Jameson Travis is going to get the nod at the nose tackle to begin. And he's somebody who I liked his tape when he was playing sparingly before. And he showed his ability a little bit last year. Looking forward to see him take that next step at the nose.
Yeah, Quintrell Jameson Travis there at the defensive interior. Going to be looking forward to seeing what he can do here. He had 2 sacks last year. couple of hits on the quarterback there. Not gaudy stats, by any means, but the potential is there, and we can see the room for improvement. He'll get a lot more time, though. The sample size a little smaller for him, but he did play 321 total snaps on defense last year. Now, look, I mean, how does that compare to other guys in the league? Walter Nolan played like 587 snaps. So if you're wondering if that's a lot, it's kind of in the middle. It shows that he was a guy who split time with a lot of other guys. I think you'll see his total snap number go up quite a bit this season. So Quintrell, could he be one of these guys that nobody's talking about, but ends up being a star on defense for Auburn?
I think he's because of what he's going to be asked to do in this defense. I don't know that he necessarily comes in and he's a star. And they're going to be rotating a lot of guys there. The job of the guy there in the middle is just to muddy it up, right? And so you're going to have guys like James Ash that come in from the transfer portal from FAMU that'll probably get some run there at that nose tackle spot. You'll have the freshman Jordan Crawford come in and probably be a disruptive force there on the interior. You'll probably have Dallas Walker playing a little bit, the guy that came over from Western Kentucky. So he's going to be splitting snaps. But I think the thing about what you're asked to do for the nose tackle position in this defense requires that maybe you're doing a lot of the dirty work that doesn't get the attention. Right. If you're just clogging up the middle and you're making it difficult for guys to get to the second level and get blocks on your linebackers, then you've done your job. And maybe you don't get all of the tackles and you don't get all, but you're being disruptive to what they want to do in their blocking scheme and allowing free flow for the linebackers, then you're doing a great job. So again, might not show up in the stat sheet, but if he does his job properly, you're going to see production from those linebackers.
Yeah. So far we've got Keldric Falk, Quintrell Jameson Travis, and last but certainly not least, part of that strong recruiting that we've seen these first 2 years, Malik Blockton is the last guy for those 3 down linemen that we project to start along the line this year. Now, his first spring, when I saw him, I was like, goodness, he looks ready to play already. Malik Blockton could possibly be a dude here for Auburn on defense here. He played 305 total snaps last year. He registered 3 sacks as a true freshman, had a few hurries. Looks like he had about 12 tackles total last year. But another one of these guys who I think you'll see his total snap number go way up this season. Now, we know that they're going to rotate a lot of guys on defense. I expect that to continue. But Malik Blockton is going to be a guy that you're going to want to keep on the field as much as possible, just a playmaker. Again, as I mentioned, 3 sacks as a true freshman. I think that he could be touching that double-digit sack number as well here in 2025.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the progression of Malik Blockton in year 2 here. He definitely was a guy who was raw last year and was able to go out there and make a lot of plays, though not having a ton of experience. And so in year 2, I want to see him kind of make the jump like how his brother was. When Marcus Harris was in year 2 at Auburn, Marcus Harris was one of those guys that was devastating. Like, you had to know where Marcus Harris was at all times. Malik Blockton needs to be one of those guys because I talked about this a little bit when you talk about the defensive front for Auburn not necessarily being the most menacing because you just didn't have those guys that people feared like Derrick Brown and Marlon Davidson up front, right? The combination of what you have right now with Keldric Falk and Malik Blockton needs to be that. Because defenses need to pay attention to more than Keldric. They need to say, all right, well, we can't run that way because Keldric Falk is on that side. But then they convert you to like, but man, Malik Blockton's on the other side. Where are we supposed to run the dang football? Even if he doesn't have the sack numbers, they need to not want to run the ball in his direction. And he needs to be a guy that is out there making it difficult for teams to get their run game going because you're going to go up against some really good rush defenses this year. We talked about the quarterback rooms getting, a lot of turnover in this year in the SEC. You got a lot of experienced running back rooms though, or run games. And Malik Blockton needs to be a guy that's being disruptive in there. And, hopefully some of the guys that rotate in there with him keep him fresh for the late game opportunities to go out there and make plays when Auburn needs him to.
Yeah, look, if Auburn can protect that second level with their D-line, plug up those gaps, make it very difficult on running backs in this league to find those holes, they could be ridiculous. Now, we talked about how bad Auburn was on third down defense last year. It's something we've covered on our show a few times over the last 2 weeks. And these guys are going to be critical in that third down defense. It starts at the D-line, man. If you can generate pressure with your D-line, if you can get into the backfield and disrupt what offenses are trying to do with the guys that we just showed you, they're going to be a very, very difficult unit for offenses to deal with here this coming season. Again, you're starting a lineman, Keldric Falk, Jameson Travis, Malik Blockton. It's going to be, they project to be a pretty good unit. You guys know I've been high on defense. We're going to talk about what we can expect from them and how they stack up right after a quick word from our sponsors. This episode of the Auburn Express is brought to you by our friends at the Vibe Vault. You can find them at 3462 Crosswinds Road, Suite E in Phoenix City, Alabama. That's right across the street from the Chattahoochee Valley Community College, next to Renfro's Supermarket and Marco's Pizza. The Vibe Vault. If you're in the Columbus, Phoenix City area and you're looking to get fresh for the weekend, get fresh for the weekend with the Vibe Vault. Not just barbers, lifestyle consultants. This episode of the Auburn Express is brought to you by our friends at the Rogue Shop. Visit rogueshop.com. Use code REPORT to get 15% off your Rogue Shop order. Pain, sleep, stress, anxiety, whatever ails you in life, the Rogue Shop has something that has you covered. Please visit them for all your herbal medicinal needs. We appreciate them for sponsoring the segment. Also, our friends at Golden's Cast Iron. You can find them at goldenscastiron.com/WR. Use code Get Your Weight Up for 15% off your weights. Code TWR for $65 off fire pits and Kamado grills. Summer is almost here. You want to be outside around the grill with your family or just getting in shape with some Golden's Cast Iron weights. Either way, work out, grill out, chill out with our friends at Golden's Cast Iron. Ike, let's jump back in here. You referenced it in the first segment, which is where I wanted to take the conversation to end today's show. That 2019 defensive line that had Marlon Davidson and Derrick Brown, and those guys were just very, very good. I would say probably one of the top 3 defensive line tandems in Auburn history. They were that good. They were that good. Do we have that kind of potential? Do they need to be that good this year? The game has changed a little bit, though, since those guys were here. It's increasingly becoming more friendly to offenses. It's hard to play defense in today's college football. You can't do much. You can't touch the quarterback. Everything's a personal foul on the quarterback. But these guys are becoming more athletic. They're becoming stronger, faster year after year. We're seeing these defensive linemen. Seems like their 40 times are dropping every couple of years. They're running ridiculous 40 times. How does Keldric Falk, Jameson Travis, Quintrell Jameson Travis, and Malik Blockton stack up here, man, in Auburn history on that D-line? And what's their true ceiling? What can we expect from them?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if because listen, when you're talking about a guy like Derrick Brown on the interior of your defensive line, he is a guy who was a surefire first rounder, right? Like there was no doubt. I mean, and look, you see where he got drafted, right? Like he was a guy who was an absolute game wrecker. I do think that though they play different positions, that is more of the mold of Keldric Falk. That is an absolute game wrecker, a guy who can be in the top of a first, like he could be a lottery pick type of player at his ceiling, right? And so I do believe that that's the kind of guy that you're going to have in Keldric Faulk. The question is, do you have the running mate for him, which is the Marlon Davidson kind of guy who was, I think Marlon Davidson's second or third round. I'm not, you guys know I'm not the Auburn historian here, and we can look that up and make sure we're correct on that. But Marlon Davidson is another guy who was an early round draft pick, a guy who was feared by offensive coordinators. You have to identify where this guy is out there on the field at all times. does he have that other guy that's going to be out there to pair with? And I do think that Malik Blockton could potentially be that guy for him this year. Now, it's not a money year for Malik Blockton, right? Is he sophomore? He's a true sophomore, so he's got another year to try to impress. But I think this is the year where he sets himself up to be at the top of those conversations going into his junior year, so that when he gets to his money year, that people are talking about him in that way. But I don't know that we're quite there. I'm not quite ready to say that they're ready to ascend to that place, but I do think that they have some potential to be very disruptive. And again, hopefully they're going to rotate enough where the quality of the snaps are going to go up, because the quantity doesn't have to be as high for you to be impactful.
Yeah, look, is Keldric Falk draft eligible after this season? Yeah, like this could be his last year.
His junior season. This could be it for him.
Yeah, this could be his last year playing college football. Malik Blockton will have one more year that he has to play at the college level after this year. But in talking about those guys and what they were able to do, Marlon Davidson was taken 7th overall by the Carolina Panthers. I'm sorry. Derrick Brown was taken 7th overall by the Carolina Panthers. Marlon Davidson was taken 47th overall in the 2nd round.
Right.
So he was selected by the Atlanta Falcons.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. So you're talking about a 1st and 2nd rounder there on your D line.
And that's what I'm saying. Like Keldric Falk, he fits the mold of the 1st round guy. I don't know who the 2nd round guy could be on that squad. Malik Blockton, of course, can't go to the league, but you got some other guys. Listen, I haven't mentioned him. Jake Hardy transferring back in over from Liberty has an opportunity. This is a money year for him, his last year in collegiate football. Can he go out there and impress? I don't think he leaps into the 2nd round. Jameson Travis at the nose. I don't think he's a 2nd round talent. And so I think those guys have NFL capability, but there's still a lot left to be seen. Now, I'm super excited about some of these freshmen that are out there on this defensive line. Super excited about them. No disrespect to any of the other people, but again, big fan of Jordan Crawford. I think Malik Autry is going to be a beast there on the interior defensive line. And so those guys are the ones that I'm looking to maybe the collective efforts of those freshmen and a Malik Blockton maybe could equal what you have in a Marlon Davidson potentially.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fun to watch here. One thing's for sure, Keldric Falk, if he dominates the way we expect him to, he's gonna attract so much attention along that line that it should free somebody else to be able to get in there and wreak havoc. Either way, we expect this to be a pretty good Auburn defense. And if they're not, I'll tell you this: if they're top 10 this year, and I think they have that potential, it's going to be because these guys all took the next step and they were able to generate a lot of pressure on the QB and stop the run.
Yeah.
Because the 3rd down defense thing, man, I'm telling you, that is the stat that stuck out like a sore thumb. And comparing them to some of the worst teams in Auburn history in terms of results, right? Like with that stat, is something that I know that they want to erase. DJ Durkin has seen the tape. He understands his team was not good on 3rd down. Like fans understand it because they gave up critical 3rd down after critical 3rd down. And they asked a lot. This team asked a lot of the defense at times. They're going to be asked even more this year, I think, but because the expectations are rising. So even if the offense gets better, that people are still going to expect the defense to get better, to hit the next level. So, they're going to do it. They've got the talent to do it. Now, before we get out of here, let's take a look one more time at your starting 3-down linemen: Keldric Falk, Quintrell Jameson Travis, and Malik Blockton, projecting along that defensive line there. We're projecting to start here at the War Report every single morning for you guys. We're out of here, guys. If you're in the comments after the video, do us a favor, smash that super thanks button. Help keep the work that we're doing here going. We'll be at SEC Media Days, bringing you guys lots of great content. That's it for another great edition of the Auburn Express. Please hit like and subscribe. We are the War Report on every social media platform. TW Report on TikTok. Signing off, and as always, Warrior.